Imagine a city devoured by war, a place where every brick became a battleground, every street a death trap. This was Stalingrad, the bloodiest conflict in human history, the battle that shattered Hitler's dreams and irrevocably broke the back of World War II. It began in the scorching summer of 1942, a brutal turning point on the Eastern Front, a clash of ideologies and armies that redefined modern warfare. Germany's Operation Barbarossa, launched in June 1941, had initially stunned the Soviet Union. German panzers had sliced through Russia, reaching the gates of Moscow by winter, but the brutal Soviet winter and fierce resistance had stalled the advance. In 1942, Hitler shifted his focus south. His goal was the Caucasus oil fields, vital for the Nazi war machine. Stalingrad, a major industrial city on the Volga River, served as a crucial strategic hub. It controlled river traffic to the Caspian Sea and the oil fields beyond. Capturing it would cripple Soviet logistics and fuel supplies. It would also bear the name of Hitler's arch-enemy, Stalin. The propaganda value alone was immense. The task fell to Friedrich Paulus's German Sixth Army, a formidable force of over 250,000 men, supported by elements of the 4th Panzer Army and air superiority from the Luftwaffe. Their advance was swift and devastating. By August 23, 1942, German tanks reached the Volga north of Stalingrad. Luftwaffe bombers unleashed a firestorm, reducing much of the city to rubble and ash. Tens of thousands of civilians perished in the initial onslaught, yet the Soviets refused to yield. Stalin issued Order Number 227, not one step back. Any soldier retreating without orders faced execution. General Vasily Chuikov, commander of the Soviet 62nd Army, was tasked with holding Stalingrad at all costs. His men were told to fight to the last bullet, the last man. The battlefield transformed into a meat grinder. The fighting descended into unprecedented urban warfare. German blitzkrieg tactics, designed for open plains, faltered in the ruins. Every factory, every warehouse, every apartment building became a fortress. Snipers became legendary figures. Vasily Zaitsev, a Soviet sniper, reportedly killed over 200 enemy soldiers. The close-quarters combat negated German technological superiority. Tanks were vulnerable in the narrow streets. Artillery fire could destroy a building, but not the determined soldiers dug into its basements. The battle for Mamayev Kurgan, a commanding hill overlooking the city, saw some of the most ferocious fighting. It changed hands multiple times. Thousands died on its slopes. The grain elevator, a massive concrete structure, became another symbol of resistance. Soldiers fought floor by floor, often hand to hand, amidst mountains of spilled grain. Pavlov's house, a four-story apartment building, was defended by a small group of Soviet soldiers for 58 days. They held off relentless German assaults, becoming a legend of Soviet defiance. Life for soldiers on both sides was an unimaginable hell. Constant shelling, sniper fire, and hand-to-hand combat were the norm. Food and water were scarce. Disease ran rampant. The temperature climbed to over 100 degrees Fahrenheit in the summer, then plummeted below zero in the winter. German soldiers, unprepared for the extreme Russian cold, began to suffer from frostbite and hypothermia. The Luftwaffe, stretched thin, struggled to supply the front lines. While Paulus's Sixth Army was embroiled in the city, the Soviet High Command, Stavka, under the brilliant leadership of General Georgy Zhukov, was meticulously planning a decisive counteroffensive. This was Operation Uranus. Launched on November 19, 1942, it struck the weaker Romanian and Hungarian forces guarding the German flanks. Soviet forces, using fresh tanks and infantry, rapidly advanced. The pincer movement closed with terrifying speed. By November 23, Soviet forces linked up near Kaloch-on-Don, completing the encirclement of the German Sixth Army and parts of the 4th Panzer Army. Approximately 250,000 to 300,000 Axis soldiers were trapped in what became known as the Kessel, or cauldron. Hitler, convinced he could still take Stalingrad, refused to allow Paulus to break out. He ordered the Sixth Army to hold its ground, promising resupply by air. But the Luftwaffe, crippled by Soviet air superiority and terrible weather, could only deliver a fraction of the necessary supplies. Soldiers inside the Kessel began to starve. Ammunition ran low. The extreme cold of the Russian winter, dropping to minus 40 degrees Celsius, became another deadly enemy. Field Marshal Erich von Manstein launched Operation Winter Storm in December, a desperate attempt to relieve the trapped Sixth Army. His panzer divisions fought their way to within 48 kilometers of the Kessel. Paulus, however, was forbidden to attempt a breakout and link up. Hitler's rigid commands sealed the fate of his best army. Manstein's relief effort failed. The Soviet ring tightened. On January 10, 1943, Operation Ring began, a final offensive to crush the trapped German forces. Slowly, methodically, the Soviets compressed the Kessel. German resistance, though tenacious, began to crumble. Paulus signaled Hitler of his impending defeat. Hitler responded by promoting Paulus to Field Marshal, reminding him that no German field marshal had ever surrendered. But even Hitler's iron will could not defy the brutal reality. On January 31st, 1943, Friedrich Paulus surrendered his southern forces. On February 2nd, the remaining northern pocket capitulated. Approximately 91,000 German soldiers, emaciated and frostbitten, marched into Soviet captivity. Of these, only about 5,000 would ever return home years later. The scale of the human cost was staggering. Historians estimate total casualties, Axis and Soviet combined, to be over 2 million. It was the deadliest single battle in human history. The German Sixth Army, once an elite formation, was utterly destroyed. This was more than just a defeat, it was a catastrophe that shattered the myth of German invincibility. Stalingrad marked the decisive turning point of World War II. Germany lost its strategic initiative on the Eastern Front forever. The vast resources and manpower committed to this battle crippled their ability to launch another major offensive in the East. From Stalingrad, the Red Army began its long, bloody march westward, ultimately culminating in the fall of Berlin. The Battle of Stalingrad was a testament to unimaginable suffering, extraordinary courage, and the sheer brutality of total war. It was where the tide of World War II irreversibly turned, a hellish cauldron where the dreams of a Nazi empire were finally violently broken. Its echoes resonate still, a stark reminder of humanity's darkest hours and its incredible resilience.